Creo Parametric 4.0, Lesson 8, Part 2. In this section of Lesson 8, we are going to do top-down design. We are going to create a plate, another component, but we're going to do it while we're in the assembly itself. So we're going to start off with new, and by the way, make sure you've selected your proper working directory. And if you want to, you can also open up your config file. Whatever it says to do in the book, please do that. So we are going to start a new, and it's going to be an assembly. And I'll just give it a simple name. I think I'll change that. Make sure you check assembly, and we're in the design type. And make sure your datum planes and everything are turned on, and go into your tree filters and make sure the features and placement folder are turned on. I do all of it almost every time. So you got your datum planes for the assembly, and this is one place where moving the datum tags is a pretty good idea, and you'll see why later. I'm only going to move one of them. And if I wanted to, I could also rename that one. Now, this is the assembly, not the subassembly. The subassembly that we created first is going to go inside of this assembly. But we want to have a plate first. So this is going to be created while we are in this mode. I'm going to go up to Create. And it's the plate. So I'm just going to use a simple couple letters for the name. And I'm going to locate it coordinate system to coordinate system. Click OK. And then select the coordinate system. Now you'll see that this all becomes grayed out and this becomes active. In the model tree, you can see that because there's a little green identifier that comes out in front of the name of the part. That says that that's the active part. The assembly is not active right now. It's grayed out in the background. Now, we're going to sketch on our DTM3, and we're going to create a, we'll go into our 2D view, and you might want to zoom in. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the center rectangle. Now, if you don't have that over here in your menu, you can put it there, or go up to rectangle and select center. And if you're careful when you do this, you can actually get all the sides equal. And you'll only have one dimension, and that's going to be 3 inches. So we're done with our sketch. Check. And it's 0.75, I think, for the depth. I should check that. Yes, 0.75. Middle mouse button. And we've got our first component. Now, what you'll see is that some of these identifiers for the datum planes and coordinate systems, the tags are on top of each other. So this is a place where you can see if you wanted to move these, it would be a good idea. Oh, I hit the wrong one. Wrong direction. So like so. So at least they're off of it. Now you don't have to do that, but you're going to see what happens later. All right. So we've got our first component there, our first feature, and we want to put in a hole. And it's going to be a threaded hole, and it is through all. And we'll look at the shape, and it's 1/2 inch. And it's a through thread. Now it doesn't preview until you select some place for it. It's looking for its placement. So if we put it here, and then we drag our offset references to the datum planes, and we want this to go down to the middle of it. So we're going to say a line from both of those with no dimension required here. And we pretty much have this done. Don't think too much about it. Don't look into it. Don't say, well, what about? I know there's something happening. Well, we're going to use the information later and to be able to identify what's going on and then alter it. So you have to do the steps as given at this point. Check. And we're going to do another hole. This one is also going to be a standard hole. This one is 5/8. It is also through all. It's going to be a counter bore. It's not going to have any threads. And here's the shape. And I think this is 0.875 and this is a 1/2 inch. I think I'm wrong about that. So the counter bore is 0.8, 1/2 inch in depth. Okay, so I'm pretty close. I'm going to leave it like it is. It goes all the way through, counter bore, etc. Now it's still not placement. The placement has still not been given, so you don't see a preview. You could have clicked this in the very beginning. And when you select the two references, the counter bore shape will show up. And the distance is 0.875 from each one of the references. Middle mouse button, and there's my hole. Now, what I want to do is I want to pattern that. So right mouse button, and I could click pattern or get it from the ribbon. And it needs 2 dimensions from which to measure. We need the vertical dimension here and the horizontal dimension here. Unfortunately, I made the diameter of this one the same size too, so be a little careful in your selection. So dimensions, and it's looking for one direction. So let's use this one first for the first direction, and let's use this one here for the second direction. Now, it's 1.75. In both directions. And if I go and look at this, normal to here, we will see that it's going out in space, the pattern. So these were supposed to be negative. Like so. Middle mouse button, and there is our holes for the part. Now, I want to go back to the first hole and right mouse button and go into information and reference viewer. This is going to tell us where the dimensions are going to and what the references are. And you'll see that you have the extrude, but it's being located from 2 assembly datums. So we want to change that. We are going to edit the definition. And when we go into placement here, we'll see that we picked up 2 datum planes. And they were assembly. So I'm going to right click and then remove all of those. And go down here, and basically I want to select DTM1 and DTM2. Now when I go back into my placement, I'll see that I've got the references to the part, not to the assembly. And I still have to go and change this back to a line. So that one's fine. Now if I wanted to go to my reference viewer here, you'll see that it's the proper reference that I want. I don't want an external reference in this case. Now with the holes here, let's do the same thing. Let's get the reference viewer, and you can see again it's referencing the datum planes of the assembly. So edit the definition of one of them and remove the references. Now you can try dragging these over, and that's why putting these datum tags a little bit away from each other is helpful. So for instance, I did move this datum plane, so it's very easy for me to go here rather than pick up the wrong one. Now on the other one, I did not move it. So you can see it doesn't know what to pick up. I want to pick up the one underneath it, and I didn't. I picked up the assembly. So I can actually hold down my control key and just go over here and select. Now if the datum plane for the assembly highlights, I just hit my right mouse button. Remember, I'm holding down my control key before I select it. Oh, I still got the wrong one. So obviously it's easiest to do from the model tree. And I'm going to do this again. And that time I got it. Middle mouse button. And let's see if this. So now it's referencing DTM 1 and 2. Now, one of the things you should do is you should obviously change your appearance and get a different color. Use your choice on colors. In general, stay with very light pastel colors, not dark ones. Stay away from green and red, obviously, because those are the highlighting for selection. Control D here. And I think that's about it for this assembly. I did want to show you over here, though. We have the part, and then we have the assembly here. This still has the active on it. If you wanted to at any time, you can open up the component and do some work just on it while you're not in the assembly. So for instance, let's say I wanted to click on the edge here, hold down my shift key, pick the surface, and let's just put a little round on it. I'm going to close that, and I'm back over to the assembly now. Now, this is not active anymore. This is one thing you got to be careful. Once you open up the component, then when you go back to the assembly, it is not active anymore. Some people accidentally start putting in holes here, and if I did put an extra hole in here or something, let's just put one in there very quickly, and just locate it like so. So it looks like there's a hole, right? Now, if I go and open up that part again, there's no hole there, because that's an assembly hole. See where it went? And yes, you could copy and paste it inside the part, but then you'd have to delete it here. So just be a little bit aware of what is active. So I'm going to delete that one. And I'm going to go back and activate here. So when you're here and it is active, you can always click on your assembly and activate that. It does not put the little green marker up there, but it does take it off of any place that you were activating before a previous component. Now, the next portion of the lesson, we're going to put the components together. I want to make sure I covered all of this up to that point, and it looks like I did. So we are going to then assemble these together, and we'll do that in part 3.